You're watching the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. I'm Tyler Jones, and coming up on today's program, I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't panic about the battle for home court advantage in the NBA just yet.
I'm Rylan Stiles. We're going to talk about Jared McCain and the fact that he can be a real playoff player for OKC.
I'm Jalen. I'm going to talk about SGA and J-Dub, life without him.
This is Locked On's Thunder Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Thunder talk gets real. No filters, no fluff, just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game, the way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Thunder Squad Show starts now.
What's good, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Schultz here with you. Happy to have you with us, joined alongside by Jeremy Lamb and Rylan Stiles. We got plenty to talk about here on today's show. Life without SGA and J-Dub. The Thunder having to go through that right now, and they were able to get a pretty impressive win against the Cleveland Cavaliers over the weekend. What do they do going forward from here? We'll discuss that coming up in a moment. The battle for home court rages on, not just in the Western Conference, but in the NBA, and the Detroit Pistons, along with the San Antonio Spurs, are right there. We'll discuss how things are stacking up on that front. Jared McCain continues to shine. And Oklahoma City, a physicality advantage. That's according to Donovan Mitchell, who dealt with that firsthand on Sunday in the loss to Oklahoma City. We'll tell you what he had to say, react to it coming up in just a matter of moments. Guys, let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder life without SGA and J-Dub. Jeremy, this past Sunday, nationally televised game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs, of course, added James Harden just a couple of weeks ago with Donovan Mitchell, and that team was a big favorite against Oklahoma City. And the Thunder found a way and played some pretty impressive basketball in that win. And we know it's not always going to be easy when you're without your two best players, but they found a way to get it done against a very good opponent. I could make a case, Jeremy, that very well may have been the most impressive win of the season for Oklahoma City to do what they did without their two stars and beat a quality team like Cleveland this past Sunday.
Yeah, that's a great case to make, just because, like you said, when you got your two best players out, you always want to, be able to perform, but it puts confidence in the other team when you see, their best players are out, whatever, they think they can win. And for them to come out and just be able to play well, no matter who's on the court. And they still played the same game. Like, it wasn't like they were doing anything different. They were moving the ball. They were just playing the OKC way, basically. So, again, you obviously want your best players on the court, but it makes everyone else better. It makes everyone else step up. It makes everyone else just want to, be that player who everyone thinks they can be, and they might not get the opportunity, but now they got the opportunity and they can show what they can do. So, life without them, obviously it sucks, but at the end of the day, they still can hold it down, and they still got one of the best, the best record in the league. They're at the top of the West, but they do got some people on their heels. So that was a good win for them.
Rylan, you look at the numbers, and they had a total of 7 players in double figures point-wise in that win. And I have to think that's got to do wonders for confidence. I don't think this team was lacking confidence anyway, but that's got to be a big motivational, ego boost for them to get the job done the way they did with the way guys stepped up there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think it would have to be something that they can really feel good about heading into tonight against Toronto. This was a team, they played unsustainably well in the first quarter. Everything was working for them on both ends, getting out to that early lead, over 20 points that they were up in that opening frame because the shots were falling, the defense, they were playing with their hair on fire. A lot of energy for a team that at times this year has lacked energy, surprisingly enough, for a team built on being 0-0. But you look at on Sunday, they all banded together and got a win that nobody thought that they would get. It was the second time they've been underdogs this season, and they pulled off the upset against a Cleveland team that is red hot. That's their first loss since the James Harden trade. It broke their 7-game winning streak. And that was a big-time win because when you're looking at this schedule and trying to figure out how the Thunder could manage being without J-Dub, without SGA, without A.J. Mitchell, and even in that game, no Alex Caruso, that was certainly not one you thought they'd pick up. So to go 2-0 out of the All-Star break after that injury news was a big deal.
Yeah, it certainly was. And you look at just the way that the guys stepped up. I know that the focus was on Chet. And now Chet, of course, is on the injury report for the moment. But, he had a 17 and 15 rebounds. He played a solid game, but it wasn't just him, Jeremy. It was the fact you're talking about Isaiah Joe having 22, Cason Wallace having 20, Dort, Hartenstein, Jalen Williams, Jared McCain, all those guys in double figures. Like, I would not have minded one bit if it would have been a Chet takeover game by any stretch. But I love just, from a fan perspective, just seeing how well they got everybody involved there, Jeremy.
Yeah, they got back to what they do. They had a little rough patch where, it's like, oh, they need this guy to play. They need this guy to play. But at the end of the day, they showed why they're OKC. They showed why they won a championship, and that's simply because they're one of the deepest teams in the league. Like, they're made for the playoffs. Like, if one person go out, someone else is stepping up. And with the long season, 82 games plus playoffs, they had the shortest offseason. So you need players that can step up, and that's what they did. Like you said, Isaiah Joe had 22, Chet looking like he could be the number 2 option. It's just like it's a good feeling to know that other people are going to step up and can be a star in their role or in that game any given moment. So to see that is definitely encouraging, just because when they hit that roadblock, when they hit the speed bumps and all that, everybody was thinking, oh, they can't win. But it's a long season, and it's hard to sustain, just playing well every single game. So now I think they're hitting their stride, and hopefully everybody get healthy and they'll be all right.
And Rylan, I know that the Cavs game is the one that stands out with them being on that winning streak that they were on, 7 in a row and all of that. But even going back to Friday night, and granted, the Nets aren't that great of a basketball team, don't get me wrong, but that was a decisive win, a game that was never in doubt. Won that game by 19 points. And kind of similarly to the Cavs game, one where a multitude of guys were stepping up to the plate. It wasn't just Chet that they were getting, a number of guys involved that all played key contributions in that game too.
Yeah, I mean, that game I think was impressive on the lens of just that was one that you had to win. It would have been easy to take for granted the fact that Brooklyn was on the second night of a back-to-back. They're not an inspiring team. And we've seen this Thunder team put up a dud performance and not bring the required energy from the opening tip. And that was one that you had to have, and they played that way. And they didn't take that for granted, and they got a big win on Friday to go 2-0 out of this All-Star break. And when you look at the schedule, it's the toughest in the NBA out of this All-Star break, and there's still 10 games out there for you, though, playing Brooklyn twice, playing the Bulls twice, playing some of these bad teams a couple of times that you need to ensure that you get now more than ever, because the rest of the schedule is so tough. I mean, you look at this back-to-back between Toronto and Detroit, you don't get any of your guys back. That's likely 2 losses for Oklahoma City that you've got to make up somewhere else. And so that's why Friday was so important, to see these guys step up and to see these guys take a mature approach to that game and take care of business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And you look forward for Oklahoma City of what's ahead. You got a gauntlet of these next 2 games. The Pistons have the best record in the Eastern Conference, and we'll talk about the battle for home court in our next segment in a bit. and then you take on the Denver Nuggets. And we're still waiting to hear, more about, hey, when are we going to see SGA and J-Dub and all that here pretty soon? But, if you look at those two games ahead, realistically, Jeremy, if you're, let's say you're without SGA and J-Dub again, just assuming if those guys aren't there, if you could split those two, I think you'd be feeling pretty good. If you are in if you lose both of them, then that's not going to feel great. But if you can find a way to come out with the split, with the roster, being depleted without having your top two players, then I think you're feeling okay with that. Is that kind of what you look at that, Jeremy? Is splitting those two games with Detroit and Denver here?
That's a great question. I don't know. I feel like they should win both. I mean, they're the defending champs. So for me, it's like, yeah, like they can, it would be good if they get a split. They're going to be some tough games. But at the end of the day, I feel like they should win both games, especially Detroit, though, because Detroit is on their heels. Detroit is starting to feel like maybe we could be the best team in the league. Maybe we can challenge them to take their title. So I would want to win that game for sure. Maybe Denver, if you drop that game, as long as you're competitive and you play well, cool. But Detroit, that's going to be a big game. Even though the big stars are out, that's a big game in my opinion.
Rylan, I feel like we got to give a lot of credit. I can't believe we haven't talked about him 12 minutes in, to the head coach himself, to Mark, with what he's done to navigate this situation and to get the guys involved here. Mark's obviously done a great job, handling these circumstances here.
Yeah, especially whenever you look at how they've performed offensively, and obviously shot variance plays a part in that in a big way Sunday, but he's having to navigate a team that does not have a lead ball handler, and in fact, they're down their best three offensive engines in SGA, J-Dub, and AJ Mitchell. So whenever you take that away from an offense, that is not the overall strength of the team. The overall strength of the team is still defensively charged with their elite defense. So you make a unit in which you don't make your money even worse without having SGA or J-Dub or AJ, and to still find a way to get the most out of guys like Cason Wallace having a career-high 10 assists, putting him on the ball, and trying to let him be a table setter. Of course, Isaiah Joe and Jared McCain have stepped up in a big way. It's been really impressive to see, on top of the nature of the motivating factor that we've talked about, of how intense that they were in these past two games, and now they have a very tough week ahead. I think it's a week that if they go 1-4, as long as they were able to beat Dallas, or 1-3, I should say, these next four games, as long as they can beat Dallas and be competitive in all the other games, that'd still be pretty impressive because you're taking on such tough competition. You got to compete. You got to keep it close, obviously. But if they fall short because they don't have AJ, Shai, or J-Dub in any of these games, there's nothing to lose sleep over. And you got to trust this crew right now to be competitive. And once you're in the game, especially if you get some luck from beyond the arc, as they've had these last couple of nights, in particular Sunday, then you feel good about the chances of pulling off an upset. But Toronto's defense and their length will give OKC problems. Detroit is a legitimate foe. And of course, Denver will be ready to get back in the win column after what happened to them in Denver a few weeks ago, whenever SGA went off as a playmaker and the Thunder punished them with some good shooting variants. So the one you got to win this week is Dallas. And then we'll see where the chips fall of who's all available for what games in between now and then.
Jeremy, another thing I feel like that we need to bring up here is that when you have guys out like this, it presents opportunity for other guys to step up and embrace that chance with more minutes that they wouldn't be getting otherwise. And, for these guys, the way they've stepped up, we've mentioned some of the names here. I mean, I think it's just awesome to see the way that they've capitalized on this chance to and taking advantage of that when they've been handed the keys, like they've driven this thing like a sports car.
Yeah, it's hard to try to take advantage of every opportunity because you don't know how much you're going to play. You don't know what's going to happen in the game. You might play 10 minutes, you might play 15 minutes. But when you got your stars out and you're going to have some minutes, it's added pressure, but at the same time, you got to take advantage of it and play as hard as you can. And people forget that it's 29 other teams watching. So you're not just playing for your coach or your teammate or your GM. You playing for the whole league, because when they see what you can do in a small amount of time, then they realize, like, okay, we might be able to get him over here, and then they'll have a bigger role. So I just think everybody taking advantage of it. And again, I said it on shows before, when you win, it helps them understand that, okay, this is how you got to play to win. So, winning cures all. So hopefully, they're going to take advantage of everything they do, just how they've been doing all year. Like I said earlier, they hit a speed bump, but that's who they are. The next man steps up, and that's why they're so successful.
Yeah, no doubt about it. More to come on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. In a moment, we'll shift gears, talk about the battle for home court advantage. The Thunder sit to take on the Pistons here this week, and the Pistons are right on their heels when it comes to getting home court for the NBA Finals. We'll discuss that. Also, the San Antonio Spurs are not too far behind. We'll break down that situation as we continue here on this Tuesday edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to still fill sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed-sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. Welcome back. We continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb, Tyler Jones back here with you now. Thank you for making the Locked On Thunder podcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Access to an ad-free audio feed for the Locked On Thunder podcast, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show where you get to interact directly with Rylan. All you have to do, folks, is go to lockedonthunder.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Guys, let's break down how things are looking in the battle for home court in the NBA. We mentioned the Thunder have that big game coming up against the Detroit Pistons, and here's how things are stacking up when it comes to home court, not just in the Western Conference, but in the NBA for the finals as well. Right now, the Thunder are in first place in the West at 44-14 with a win percentage of about 76%. Then the Spurs are in second place at 41-16 with a win percentage of about 72%. And then the Rockets and Nuggets are a ways back there. Rockets are at 35-21. Nuggets are at 36-22. But then you look over at the Eastern Conference, and the Detroit Pistons are currently 42-14, meaning that they have the same loss total as Oklahoma City, each at 14. But Oklahoma City has played two more games with to additional wins on top of Detroit. So that puts Oklahoma City at a higher win percentage. Oklahoma City has 76% win percentage. Detroit at a 75% win percentage. The Celtics and Knicks are behind the Pistons. Celtics at 37-19, Knicks at 37-21. So, Rylan, I'll start with you here. This is getting tight. And I remember an old adage Phil Jackson once said that you have to get to 40 wins before you get to 20 losses. And there's only 3 teams that meet that right now. That's Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and Detroit. 91% of NBA champions since the 1990s that threshold. So based on what Phil Jackson's metrics would be, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and Detroit would be the only title contenders by that front. But with that said, Detroit right there, San Antonio right there, things are starting to get very interesting here.
Yeah, I think that the most pressing issue would be San Antonio and the fact that they got a big win against Detroit even yesterday, and they just keep on winning and they keep on playing such great basketball. The Eastern Conference #1 seed doesn't really factor in right now for Oklahoma City. Look, if it's Detroit with a better record than OKC and they have home court advantage throughout, both teams have to make the finals before it even comes into play. And this is a Thunder team that last year gave away home court advantage in the Western Conference and in the second round by losing game 1 in the Paycom Center, both those rounds, and still ended up winning the series and ended up winning the championship. So if Detroit and OKC both get to the finals, it can be played on the moon. Cade Cunningham and SGA, they're going to be trying to drag their team to a title. It doesn't matter which location it's played in. But with San Antonio, they're the bigger issue, because if you fall to that 2 seed, it changes everything for what this postseason picture would look like. You would eventually lead into playing both San Antonio and Denver just to try to get to the NBA Finals. So that would make it a much harder path, a much more difficult, challenging path that you could take some losses in. Whereas if you stay at 1 and you play that 4 or 5 game, which will likely end up being Houston and LA when it's all said and done, neither one of those teams has a shot to beat Oklahoma City. Nobody in the play-in has a shot to beat Oklahoma City. And you've got to go through one of San Antonio or Denver. You only have to play one team who theoretically could beat you before the NBA Finals. That's a huge deal. And to have home court advantage in that setting would be a huge deal as well. So San Antonio is the one to worry about. Detroit, it's been a great story. They're legitimate contenders. They're a great team. If they happen to make it there despite their inexperience, then so be it. Toss the ball up in the Motor City and let's see who wins the championship. But I don't think that anyone should be concerned with the Pistons right now. They should be concerned with San Antonio, because that completely refigures how the team could even get to the finals, to even have this luxury to worry about. You go back to that 24 postseason where OKC was the 1 seed in the West. They lost in the second round. It didn't matter that they were the 1 seed overall. They didn't end up needing home court advantage because they lost in the second round. So I think that you look at it and it is going to be a test of just, can the Thunder outlast San Antonio?
Jeremy, to you on kind of what Rylan mentioned there, that 1 seed in the West, so important because you don't want to have to face Denver and San Antonio both. Not saying they can't beat both teams, but you can make life a lot easier on yourselves if you only play one and not the other.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree in terms of, you shouldn't be so worried about Detroit and all that. But I would be more worried about like getting out of the West in terms of, because you got to think, you got Wemby and San Antonio. Yeah, they don't got experience, but you also got Houston with KD. If you got to play KD in a series, it's going to be tough. If you got to play Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, if you got to play Denver with, Jokic, it's so many good teams in the West. I would be worried a little bit about Detroit if they can catch them and get the #1 overall seed. So then you would lose, home court advantage like overall. But other than that, I don't know. If they get out the West, they're going to win. But like I said, with Detroit, I would be maybe a little bit worried, just simply because they have everything they need. They got a a great big man who knows his role. They have a great point guard. They have great defenders. They're elite on both ends of the floor. So if they lose home court advantage overall, then it'll be interesting. But yeah, they just got to get out the West, and I feel like they'll do their thing.
Now, Rylan, here's another thing to bring up when it comes to Detroit, and give them credit where credit's due. They've had a fantastic season, but it's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination that even if they are the 1 seed, they're getting out of the East, because Boston has played so well, and their best player is on his way to coming back, and we don't know what Boston's going to be when he comes back, how much they improve, if they're going to be better than Detroit or not. Like you talk about you preparing for the future and such. In Detroit's case, they're still figuring out, okay, can we get past a Boston team with a healthy Jason Tatum still?
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that Detroit will get there, and that's partly why it doesn't really matter who the 1 seed in the West was. Look, I mean, you look at it, and last year the whole conversation at this time was, I mean, are the Thunder going to lose out on the best record to Cleveland? And Cleveland lost in the second round. It just didn't end up mattering a one bit that Cleveland was even in contention. Now, the Thunder ended up getting home court advantage throughout. And even with home court advantage throughout, they never met Cleveland anyway. So they still got to play at home court, even had Cleveland made it all the way there. So there's so much still left to be worked with. At this time last year, we had way less questions about Cleveland during the regular season and thought that they were going to be just destined to play OKC in the NBA Finals, and they didn't even come close to making it. Whereas with Detroit, you can look at their lack of shooting, you can look at their lack of experience to say maybe they won't make it out of the East. And again, even if they do, some of the most legendary performances that this team had a year ago to win a championship came on the road. Getting it done on that Sunday afternoon in Denver, getting it done in the fourth quarter with 15 points in that frame by SGA to avoid going down 3-1 and make it 2-2 coming back to OKC. Like, these kind of moments happen for this team, and they're battle tested in them, to where if they happen to get to the finals, then you worry about it then, because there's no guarantee that the Thunder make it to the finals. They're going to have to take care of their own house, especially with San Antonio being just 2.5 games back right now, but holding the tiebreaker over Oklahoma City. So that even bolsters San Antonio's case there as well to try to overtake the Thunder, as San Antonio's on a 9-game winning streak, and they're much healthier than OKC is at this juncture of the season, to where you imagine that they're going to keep winning, where OKC has a very tough week ahead. So by the end of the week, you could be looking at San Antonio number 1 in the West, and Detroit's not even in the thought process. So it is all about the Western Conference for me.
So to add to Rylan's point here, Jeremy, do you think this thing's going to come down to a photo finish? Is it going to be close, you think, for the number 1 seed in the West between Oklahoma City and San Antonio here?
No, I don't think it will be close with OKC and San Antonio, but I think it will be close with OKC and Detroit. But I do got a question, Rylan. How many more games does Cleveland have?
How many more games left to play?
Yeah.
Let's see, they're at 36-22. So, I mean, they've got about a quarter of their schedule left.
So,
they're 5-1 with James. Do you think they could be the number 2 seed? Because they right behind Boston and New York.
I think
they can end up being a number 2 seed?
I think that they can end up being the number 2 seed in the East, especially if they continue to win, because you look at their schedule, it's in a way similarly to Oklahoma City, where not only are they winning right now, but they have a lot of opportunities to prove it. They play in this week. They just played Oklahoma City and lost, but then they play New York tomorrow. They play Detroit on the 27th. They played Detroit again on the 3rd. They're playing Boston on the 8th. So they haven't even lost out on the tiebreakers yet for all these top teams in the Eastern Conference. So if they continue to win, not only does it help them climb in terms of the games back that we're talking about being so close to Boston, but they can continue to win against these teams, getting these tiebreakers and having even more cushion. And then tiebreakers are very important. The Thunder are looking for their 3rd straight number 1 seed in the West. They got the first one via tiebreaker. They were tied with Denver and Minnesota, all at 57 wins, all in the same division, and they happened to get the tiebreaker because of something that they had no control over, because Devontae Graham on a tanking Spurs team hit a half-court shot, and that ended up getting the Thunder the 1 seed. So it is something that Cleveland has such control over right now to take care of business the rest of the way, and if this is really who they are now, they can certainly climb up these standings.
Okay, so if you had to bet your money, and we're not betting on here, so y'all don't even think that. But if you had to bet your money, who you betting on? Boston to end the number 2 seed or Cleveland to be the number 2 seed at the end of the season?
I would take the action on Cleveland for this reason. I think that Boston's a great team and they've played great basketball. But I do wonder if we're going to buy into what Cleveland's done so far since they got James Harden, that's the premise of the question. If we're going to buy into this, well, then they're hitting their stride, and there's nothing that's going to disrupt this. They've already had their big disruption. Their big disruption was breaking up that core four of Garland and trading him out for Harden. Right. So they've already caught the rhythm. Boston is going to inject disruption into them with Jason Tatum. Now, look, you got to do it. If Tatum can play, you got to bring him back and see what he's got. But when they bring him back, it's gonna throw a curveball. They're going to have to take some time to reintegrate him into their system, and that could cause them some losses on the front end. It might make them a better team on the back end, but on the front end, it might cost them some losses to where if Cleveland's still playing at this level, that's just enough wiggle room to get in there and to get that 2 seed.
So let me ask you both this as we wrap up this segment here. Since we're on the Eastern Conference, I know that it's still a ways out. You got to get all the way to the finals first. But who is the most dangerous team? Like, who is the one that you would want to face the least if you're Oklahoma City, hypothetically, in the NBA Finals? I feel like I know Jeremy's answer, but I'll go to him first on this. Jeremy, who is that team you think in the East?
We talking about the finals?
Yeah, in the finals. That if you're Oklahoma
City,
who's the team you want to face the least?
Yeah, it would be Detroit because they beat you up. Like they literally they put so much on you. It's taxing. It's hard to wake up the next day after you play Detroit. You might be able to get by with Boston, Cleveland, whatever. But when you play Detroit, you're going to be hurting the next day. So I'll say Detroit.
How about you, Rylan?
Yeah, it has to be Detroit. They're one of only 2 teams in the East that even have a shot, in my opinion, to beat Oklahoma City. And I would still favor OKC against both of them, but Detroit and Boston are the 2. Detroit ahead of Boston because of what Jeremy mentioned. If both these teams are streaky at best 3-point shooting clubs, which they are, then it comes down to defense, which the Thunder are elite at, but so is Detroit. And then it's like, well, it's going to be a very physical game. It's going to be a rock fight game. Does Shai hit more big time shots? Does Cade hit more big time shots? And you you roll the ball out there and you see where it goes. And I think that both these teams have that juggernaut. Whereas with Boston, the reason I have them below Detroit would be their way of beating OKC. Their path to it is simply luck. It's just they're going to shoot 43s, and if a lot of those threes go in, then the math of it all will say that they can win that series. But if those threes rim out, it'll look just like the Knicks series last year for Boston, and they're not going to have a chance to beat Oklahoma City. So Detroit's pathway to a win is more sustainable than anybody else's in the Eastern Conference against OKC, because Cat and Brunson are not going to be able to defend Shai and not be able to defend on this against this team in Cleveland. You just saw on Sunday how beneficial it is to have Lou Dort and Casey Wallace and making life uncomfortable routinely on Harden and Mitchell. They don't have a shot either. And then the rest of the East is just irrelevant. So those are the 4, and there's only 2 that have a chance to win.
The last thing before the next segment, I will say, I hear you, but the only thing about OKC, they're small. They play great defense, but they're small. Detroit is big. And and Houston is big. So that's my only thing about OKC and playing defense. It's going to be tough to play against these big teams, even though they scrappy and all that. And again, I'll put my money on Thunder, but it's going to be interesting.
I'll go with Boston because of the great unknown. Like, they're playing so well even without Jason Tatum, and they've won a championship before. Is there a big step up further with Tatum there? And we don't know, because we don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. And so for me, just with that unknown, I'll go with Boston for now. But I hear you guys on Detroit. That's an excellent team as well. More to come on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. We'll talk Jared McCain as he continues to find his role within Oklahoma City. And the Thunder, Jeremy says they may be small, but they do have a physicality advantage on everybody else, according to Donovan Mitchell. We'll talk about that and more as we roll along here on this Tuesday edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Ever want to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, and the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock in. I love the futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Jeremy Lamb, Rylan Stiles back here with you here on this Tuesday. Appreciate y'all joining us. Let's talk Jared McCain now, the newest member of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he has played very well the last few games as he's had 4 straight games in double-digit point totals, as he had 10 against Cleveland, 21 against the Nets on Friday, going 7 of 12 from the field. 13 against the Bucks, and then 12 against the Phoenix Suns. And, you know, I'll say this. It's so funny. It was a small number of folks, but they at least made themselves be known like, oh, great. You know, here's this TikTok guy coming in. You know, is he serious about basketball or not? And he's certainly quieted that noise with the way that he's played and found himself fitting in so naturally right away with this Thunder team. Jeremy, I love the fit of what he's already accomplished with this Oklahoma City Thunder team here in the first couple of weeks of his tenure here.
Yeah, it's just another ball handler, another playmaker, someone who can just help the team get better. I mean, what he's doing out there, I didn't realize that he could shoot all the different shots that he can. He got step backs, he got side steps, he can shoot behind the screen, he can make the right pass, he can finish at the rim, he got a mid-range. So it's just a great weapon to have, not only on your team, but on your team in the playoffs. Because the playoffs is a different, it's different. Like, you can't just spot up and shoot in the playoffs. There are literally schemes and scouting reports on how to make you play terrible. They want you to play the worst that you can. And for him, he has multiple things that he can do, so it's hard to scout. You can scout it, but at the end of the day, he got counters. He can, like I said, he can shoot the mid-range, shoot the three, finish at the rim, get to the line, and also make plays for others. So for him to just play well and just be who he is, that's what you want when you're a GM. You make a decision, and when they're literally he's doing what you dream of as a GM. And so to see him successful and see him thrive in his role, he knows his role. He's not like trying to do too much. He's just being himself. So, yeah, I'm happy for him. Kudos to him.
Rylan, there was a report from Brian Windhorst of ESPN earlier this week that said something to the effect of that when the Thunder get to their playoff rotation, that Jared McCain could be the odd man out when they get to that point. But whether that's true or not, and Wendy's a fantastic reporter. This is not a knock on him whatsoever. Whether that's true or not, I'll say this. Jared McCain is going to make that decision very tough on Mark Daigneault because the way he's played as of late, he's making a strong case that he belongs to get some quality minutes going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a very outdated way of looking at the rotation in the sense of, yes, most coaches do shrink it to 8. But the Thunder have had 2 years now of playoff runs under Mark. That's not the case. He plays 10, 11, 12 guys still in the postseason. And Jared McCain, we ranked it on today's show on Locked On Thunder of what their playoff rotation would look like. He's in the top 10. He's that valuable to this team. You look at right now, his partnerships with a couple of guys, Isaiah Joe, they're plus 24 on the court together in 125 possessions. That sample size continues to grow and continues to be really good for this team. But whenever he's partnered up with Chet Holmgren, and why that's a big deal with those two on the court, offensively, they're 135 points per possession. They're a plus 45.1 in the differential. Defensively, they only let up 90 points per possession over the course of a game. And that's where you look at it as Chet allows you to have this defensive anchor that can make up for some of Jared's deficiencies on that end of the floor. As long as he can funnel the driver into Chet, you feel really good. And then offensively, it opens up the floor so much for this team. Jared McCain's been great at scoring, of course, from beyond the arc, where he's hitting 50% of his above the break threes, 40% in the corner, which will likely improve here. And I talked to Jared in the locker room of just how he's physically feeling. It's been a lot about his emotional state since the trade, rightfully so. But he's also been dealing with, of course, the knee surgery that shut him down last year. And then he had a thumb surgery in the offseason. And every passing day, he's getting stronger and stronger off of that knee. And you're seeing him generate a lot of good looks for himself at the rim, that if he polishes up and can start to finish around the rim, then it adds another dynamic to his game. So I think come playoff time, you're looking at a guy who's going to play, and you're looking at a guy who's going to swing a game or swing a series because of how he plays. This team, whenever the defensive schemes are there, to Jeremy's point, and the defensive intensities are there, they're going to put you in a position where you're going to need this shooting boost. You're going to need this relocation. You're going to need this playmaking from him to help you get out of a jam. We saw far too often OKC fall into offensively a year ago. He can inject some life into a team in that regard this year. So I think that Jared McCain is really hitting a stride and will continue to be important for OKC.
OG Thunder fans will like what I'm about to say here of going back many, many years ago. I think of, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong here, you all remember many years ago when the Thunder had Daquan Cook, and the offense could be in a lull, they could be struggling, and then they bring in Daquan Cook and they just tell him to shoot it and try to provide a spark, be a spark plug. And obviously they're different players, but I feel like when we get to the postseason, or as Rylan mentions, at times when maybe the shots aren't falling and things are in a lull, you just tell Jared McCain, just go out there and shoot it and try to get that spark going. That Jeremy, he could potentially be that spark plug to this offense that they need when the time comes, come playoff time.
I'm looking at the comments, and it's kind of funny now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like he's not gonna go out there and just make offense, but he's a great piece. But what they gonna do with AJ Mitchell? What you think, Rylan?
I think that this is going to be the pathway to getting a more functional offense whenever you don't have SGA on the court. Like, you look at it and you're going to see AJ Mitchell be on the ball, Isaiah Joe and Jared McCain be off the ball on the perimeter. You put Jade up at the 4, you still have him on the court for that secondary offense, and then you can stagger your bigs however you see fit between Chet and Ihar, and it creates this really, really, really high-level offense. And then defensively, because of the ways that you've seen AJ and Joe progress, because you still have 2 All-NBA defenders in Chet and Jade out there, you still feel really good about that end of the floor as well, while helping one of your biggest deficiencies from a year ago. So I think that there's certainly a massive role for AJ Mitchell whenever he is back.
Okay, I'm about to get real controversial real quick. How tall is AJ Mitchell, and how tall is
Jared McCain?
Yeah, Jared McCain.
AJ 6'3".
Yeah, AJ 6'3", and then Jared McCain will be listed at 6'2".
Okay, so what's their different roles? Because I feel like bringing in Jared McCain, it low-key looks like AJ Mitchell won't be a factor on the team anymore.
Well, AJ is much better at being on the ball, at getting to the rim, at finishing around the rim, at getting to the free throw line, and he's a much better facilitator. So those two are going to have to work in tandem. We haven't gotten to see it yet because they've been missing each other due to injury. But there is absolutely going to be a partnership there between these two guys because they're so complementary one another, and because their skill sets don't really overlap. McCain's a much better shooter, a much better off-ball weapon, while Mitchell can play off the ball. McCain's just more deadly in that role, and Mitchell's more deadly on the ball whenever he's in there as well. So that they complement each other very well. And then long term, you're looking at two guys next year who make $7.2 million combined. So you get two players for that low of a number who are very impactful. So they have to make it work because there's a lot of financial incentive too. So I think that those two guys are going to play really nicely together.
Yeah, okay. And with the way Mark has figured out these rotations, if there's anybody that's I would feel could make it work, I would think it's Mark with how well he's managed to get these guys to find their roles and play together, Jeremy.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, yeah. I was just asking that question just simply because, you got to think about it. These are two people who are dynamic with the ball. They're dynamic in how they play the game. So at the end of the day, it's hard to find a spot for each person. But at the end of the day, I talked to Coach Dagenau, and it's like, yeah, he'll figure out how to do it.
I think so. More to come. Final segment on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. OKC with the physicality advantage, so much so that stuck out to Donovan Mitchell when the Thunder were able to get that win against the Cavs on Sunday. We'll talk about that as we wrap up on this Tuesday edition of the Squad Show. Stay with us. Final segment here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb back here with you now. Guys, as we're wrapping up today, let's talk about the physicality for Oklahoma City. They might not be the biggest team by any stretch of the imagination. They do play small, but they are very physical, and it caught the attention of Donovan Mitchell in Oklahoma City's win against Cleveland on Sunday. Mitchell criticized high physicality defense, stating they foul and noting that officials often allow it. Despite the frustration, Mitchell did acknowledge that not just the Cavs, but other teams need to adapt to Oklahoma City's physicality. And, he was very complimentary to Oklahoma City. This wasn't a knock on OKC, but he did say, like, hey, they're getting away with stuff, but they, are using it to their advantage. And so what that makes me think, Jeremy, with a guy like Donovan Mitchell on a very good team, Cleveland Cavaliers, acknowledging this, and we still have a couple more months to the playoffs start. Do you see, Jeremy, opposing teams being able to adapt and adjust to Oklahoma City's physicality, or do you think that they continue to have this advantage going forward?
I mean, I didn't hear the statement that he said, but at the end of the day, he probably was trying to shoot a little shot and just saying, like, they get away with stuff. And at the end of the day, if you physical all game, referees can't call it every second. There's no way. So if that's how you play, then that's what it is. You can't just keep calling, fouls every second and then everybody foul out and then, you don't got no ratings. At the end of the day, the NBA is a business. Everyone knows that. And at the end of the day, people have to play a certain way. Me, I ain't play no defense. So if somebody go by me, I'm trying to grab them, they gonna call it. But if I'm grabbing people all game, like Tony Allen told me, like, yo, I grab people all game. They better not call it all game. And that's just how it goes. So with OKC, that's their identity. That's what they do. They are physical and they're tough. And at the end of the day, if you can't deal with it, then you can't play in the game with them.
Rylan, I feel like last year going into the postseason, a big topic was how is Oklahoma City going to adjust with how the officials call things in the postseason compared to the regular season, that they're not going to get away with as much as they did before. And Oklahoma City adapted just fine, of course, winning an NBA title. And now I wonder, is that narrative shifting? Is it not how's Oklahoma City going to adjust, but how other teams are going to adjust to Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I think that last year you saw the narrative was the fact of the foul differential, and a lot of that didn't take into account that the only player who gets to the free throw line on this roster is SGA. Nobody else can get the whistle to save their life on the offensive end, and so Shai was obviously fine without the whistle on the offensive end. And meanwhile, it strengthens Oklahoma City whenever refs let them play a more physical style. Whenever you get more leeway in the playoffs, it strengthens what the Thunder are already really good at, which is setting a tone defensively. Up to Jeremy's point, you can't call everything. And so you might get someone in foul trouble, but guess what? There's another guy behind him. You might get Lou Dort in foul trouble. Okay, well, Kaysen Wallace and Caruso are going to play more tonight. And then if you get Kaysen in foul trouble, okay, well, then Caruso's going to play more. And so you look at their depth and their ability to just continue to churn out defenders that they can't possibly call everything. They can't possibly foul everybody out. They can't possibly have everybody in foul trouble. And then they also get away with a lot, too, of how comfortable that they are putting Caruso and J-Dub onto bigger bodies, to where you saw Caruso. I mean, he got away with a lot against Nikola Jokic, because that's the nature of, if you're going to defend a big with a small, the refs historically in the NBA are going to let you get away with a lot if you're undersized defending. That's why Shaq had a terrible whistle as well. If you're going to be defended by guys smaller than you, they're going to let you do whatever you want almost to the extent of the law against that opponent. And so the Thunder are really a benefactor of the playoff whistle, and that will be the case this year as well. And it's going to come down to other teams matching that physicality, but it takes a lot out of you to do it physically. It takes a lot out of you to play that taxing of a style of basketball and have that kind of motor on both ends. And then they got to adjust with their body control and their ability to get shots up despite the physical nature of a defense, which is a kind of a jarring thing compared to the regular season, where not a lot of teams do play physically in the regular season. Not a lot of teams do play high engaged defense, where it is almost in reverse of a batter in the on deck circle. You're actually putting weight onto your bat in the playoffs versus taking it off. And so I think that it's going to be a situation here where other teams are going to have to try to adjust. And we saw last year that it's not always simple to adjust to the Thunder's play style. And you look at Donovan Mitchell, who's rightfully, frustrated with what's been going on in the last 4 games against OKC for Donovan Mitchell. This is a great score. This is a guy in the MVP discussion, given the 65-game rule. He's averaging 14 points against OKC on 29% shooting. He's just not been comfortable against the Thunder because they have so many guys who they can throw bodies at you, and because of their defensive style. So I look at it and say the Thunder are going to be, just like last year, really comfortable in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And with that said, Jeremy, kind of diving into what Rylan was saying there, when we talk about teams being able to match physicality, who comes to mind playoff-wise that you think could go toe-to-toe with Oklahoma City in that physicality standpoint, in your opinion?
I'm a flip the script real quick, and I'm gonna go with Phoenix. If Phoenix make it into the playoffs, they are built exactly like OKC. They have so many players who play offense and defense. They're tough. They play hard as hell. They got a whole bunch of people who are literally trying to make their way through the league. They don't got no vets where they 10-year vets, 12-year vets. Nah, they 3-4 years in trying to make their way, and they literally do whatever they can game by game just to play. So it's a whole bunch of teams, but I'm gonna go with Phoenix. If they can make it, if they can get that 8th seed, that would be a tough team to play in the playoffs. I kind of compare them to like a Detroit, who they'll beat you up. They don't worry. They dive on loose balls. They're not worried about pause. They're not they're not worried about like getting hurt and all that. No, they are literally doing everything they can to win. So that would be a team that I would be scared to play in the play. Not scared, but not want to play
Right.
in the playoffs.
Well, Rylan, to what Jeremy's talking about here, like, I don't think anybody thinks that Phoenix would have any shot at beating Oklahoma City in a 7-game series. However, to what Jeremy's talking about of that physicality standpoint, if you're Oklahoma City having to play Phoenix in that opening round, you're thinking to yourselves, how quickly can we get this thing over with? Because of the physical toll and maybe injuries that pop up. Like, you're hoping, like, can we just get this thing over with and move on to the next series? Because you might take a beating.
Yeah, I mean, against the Suns, especially if they got Dylan Brooks back, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks with a broken hand. So hopefully he'd be back in time. But if they got him back, every win would be hard fought. Whereas the past 2 first-round series have been sweeps with only one close game in each of them, 1.5, you could say, in each of them combined. So I think that you look at it, and this would be a tougher first-round matchup. But as far as who could match that tone with any sort of legitimacy would be Minnesota. They can do it. I think that San Antonio could do it as well. And then, of course, Detroit, chief among them. Detroit can play the Thunder's exact style, like looking in a mirror, and it would be an absolute rock fight. It would be early 2000s basketball, which would get a lot of people excited, but perhaps not some of the more recent NBA fans excited. But I think that those are the 3 teams that you look at that have the ability with the chance to play OKC style of play. Phoenix is in there as well. Their defense is going to make you win games. The Thunder could win in 5, but it could be a situation where you win every game by 3, 4, 5 points, and you're getting beat up all along the way while only playing 5 games.
Yeah, it could be a long 5-game series, put it that way. Thanks for tuning in to the Locked On Thunder podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow the Locked On Thunder podcast so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get the Locked On Thunder podcast ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. All you have to do, folks, is head to LockedOnThunder.com, LockedOnThunder.supercast.com, rather, LockedOnThunder.supercast.com. And you can also click the link in the comments and description of today's video. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Now, with that said, this physicality that Donovan Mitchell and others are talking about, Jeremy, I love that when we talk about identity. If you could pick, things that you would want out of a team, ideally, physicality would be way up there on the list, and that's a very good thing for Oklahoma City to be carrying their hat on of sorts is that mindset here.
Yeah, just having players that one are physical, tough, and all that, but at the end of the day, they rise to the moment. It's so much going on. When you're playing in the NBA, it's tough. You got a whole bunch to worry about. You got this, you got that. But then when it comes game time, and if I got to rely on somebody to hit a game winner or to just make sure the team is in the right spots, late in the game, you got to have those players who they're not backing down from the challenge, and they also are ready for anything at any point of the game. So come fourth quarter, it's 3 minutes left. Sometimes coaches they look at the players and say, like, what play you want? What's the best thing to do right now? And to have those players, which OKC does, and not every team does, that's a great thing to have. So that's what, if I was a coach, that's what I would be looking
Rylan, as we're wrapping up here, a busy couple days for the Thunder, back-to-back on the road in Toronto and Detroit starting tonight. Then, of course, that Denver game, and then Dallas on Sunday. And you'll be all over it all here on the channel here.
Yeah, we'll have recaps of all of those games, including in Dallas on Sunday. And then we'll have, of course, our normal episodes like the squad show on Thursday. And we'll also have a show Friday previewing that Nuggets game, which could be big for the MVP race.
Certainly so. Make sure to subscribe to the Lockdown Thunder podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out, and we appreciate you all joining us. That will do it for this Tuesday edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. We'll be back to do it all again on Thursday, 3:30 Central Time. We will see you then. For Jeremy Lamb and Rylan Stiles, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Enjoy the game tonight.